Good morning, Facebook world. Today is No Makeup Monday. So if you have a face full of makeup and you're in the office, just know you got to join the measure. This is an easier way to do Mondays, and it makes it a lot easier. Wanted to share one of the books that I've read in the past that has really had a enormous amount of life change for me is this book right here. It's called 5, and it is Where Will You Be 5 Years from Today? And I actually started this book right before I jumped into real estate, had filled it out, forgotten what I had filled in, and pulled it out last year and realized that everything I'd actually written in here has come true. And not just come true, it came true really big. And so it's fantastic. One of my takeaways from this book can actually be found, it's just about a quarter of the way in on the inside, and it is with this drawing right here. And my takeaway that I got from this is, you know, when you look at if you've ever ridden a bike, or if you look at a tire with spokes, is if we go about our lives the same way a tire would, and you figure that you're the hub of that tire, and everything you do in your life is a different spoke. Now, there is different values on the spokes, but they're all spokes. So you might have one of the spokes could be your career, another spoke could be your health, it could be friends, it could be hobbies, financial, education, travel. And each time you have a different spoke, it's helping add balance to this wheel. And when I look back on my own life, I know when my children were younger and I had stayed home and did daycare with them, I didn't have a lot of spokes on my wheel. I believe back then it was a little bit different, just in that, and I've talked about this before, I had really poured myself into my children and my marriage and my life, and I thought that by emptying my own cup that I would be filling up theirs. And what I now know is that by emptying my own cup, it's not the right way to go about it. So if you look at your life and you look at, if you're in the middle of the wheel, how many spokes do you have on your wheel? And the spokes that you're developing will add balance. And so you might look at relationships, romance, spiritual, travel, adventures, charity. And these are all different areas that you develop relationships with. You develop your identity with affiliating with different areas of this. And the reason why you need to add more spokes is because when one of the spokes of your wheel falls apart or breaks, if you have a relationship that goes bad, if you have a career move that goes bad, it's just one of many spokes. It doesn't make you have a flat tire. It doesn't stop you from being able to perform a happy, fulfilled life, because you were designed to build the life that you want. And as soon as you realize that you have complete control on how you're going to go through this life, how you're going to experience it, who you're going to allow to be spokes, who you're going to allow what kind of power. Now, this isn't, when you're looking at your own wheel, this isn't you and somebody else. This hub is you and God in my world, and you're building the different spokes. Now, there can be other people in your life who are very important spokes in your wheel, but you're just a spoke in their wheel also. And in that way, if something happens to damage that relationship, if something happens to bring that career or that job to an end, it's just one of many, and you're going to be able to pick up and move on, and it's going to have very little impact if you've got a balanced wheel. What I find is that when people only have 2 or 3 different spokes on their wheel, these are the people who, I mean, even myself at times, where you're going to struggle with depression. You're going to struggle with, people are not going to measure up to your expectations. And why or how? I know if somebody tries to make me more than a spoke in their world, I don't want that. I'm not ready for that responsibility. I don't want to be solely responsible for somebody else's happiness. They have to be able to find happiness in themselves. And that all comes by having a very balanced wheel. Now, as you're going through situations, starting by doing this book. Now, this is not an easy book that you read from beginning to end, because it's a very interactive and you kind of have to think about some things. You can find this book at online. Or you can find it, I know Target has it right now. If you go in the aisle where the cards are, and then they have like a novelty aisle where there's some silly gifts and box thank you cards. It's usually on the bottom shelf right there. I just picked 2 of these up this morning, so I know they're still there. And that book is going to get you thinking. And it's going to get you thinking. It's also going to get you thinking big. Because that's what life is all about. It's not about selling yourself short or settling. It's about designing a life that can take you to wherever you can think, and to think very big. Because the bigger you can think, what you're going to see is, as you think big and it starts happening, you're going to think even bigger. It's really neat. Sometime if we ever meet one-on-one, I'll share my own personal book and you can look through it, because there are some really great big things in there that have actually come true. Now, some tips I'm going to give you as you're balancing your wheel or finding the spokes for your wheel to get through the day is to remember that whenever a situation happens in your life, the first 24 hours after something happens, and this really comes into play, especially if you have teenage daughters, the first 24 hours the situation happens, there's a lot of emotion there, and that is your reaction phase. That's where you're just giving a reaction. And have you ever given a reaction and then a day later you thought, oh my goodness, I would handle that differently? And it's because it was filled with a lot of emotion. And when there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion, that is just pure energy there that gets out. There's a lot of times where you're not able to harness it, or you don't handle situations the way you normally would. After 24 hours, you go into more of a logical thinking stage, and that's more of a response. And so I know with my own children, when there were things that had come up or situations that arose, and I would ask them, do you want my reaction or do you want my response? Because my response will come tomorrow. If you want my reaction, you just got to know this is just what I'm feeling right now. And so as you're going through your day, as you're going through your life, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling depressed, some of it is realizing what stage that you're in, as far as if you're in a reaction stage or response stage. And then when you're in the response stage and you're in logic, know that you have complete control on how this situation is going to be handled. And what I mean by that is one of my favorite quotes, I've got it written down here from Viktor Frankl, says, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, and that's to choose one attitude in any given set of circumstances. So we cannot necessarily control what happens to us or what other people do to us or what they try to create in our world. You cannot stop that. It will never happen until you die. But you can control how you react and how you respond. And so if you know that there is a situation going on that is not in alignment with you, you've got a balanced wheel, so you've got plenty of other stuff there. This is just a spoke of the wheel that is not performing the way that you expected. What you can do is make sure that you respond appropriately and that you respond the way that would be in alignment with you. Regardless of what somebody else is going to do, say, or be around you, you have complete control, because it goes back to that Mother Teresa quote that I just adore called, do it anyway. The test is not between you and the other person. The test is how are you going to handle yourself through any given situation. And so I'm intending that from this, that if you're not handling situations the way that you would like, or if you look back and you're regretting a little bit of how you handled a situation, take a look at your wheel and see if you've got a balanced wheel on there. If you've got other things that you're able to lean on to help balance the wheel, because life's still going to go on. And if you don't have a balanced wheel, what's going to happen is you're going to get it flat. You're going to be sitting on the side of the road hoping and praying that somebody comes along and helps you. Where if you had done your work ahead of time before you needed it, you'll be ready for any obstacle that comes your way. So you guys, I hope that you're going to have a fantastic week. I know that this is going to be a big week in my life. A lot of great things happening. And don't forget to pick up this book. If you can't find it, shoot me a message. I'll see if I can help you get one. And remember that we're all very powerful. We're all a blessing, and you're in control of what happens today, so make it great. Thanks.